the Giants are 2-0. The most improbable of outcomes. I mean, I guess if you look at the quality of their opponents, and the Titans, I still think are a decent team, you could have seen this coming, but given the way that even Daniel Jones has played in the first two games, if you were to look at the stat line and if you were to look at the quality of plays that he's making, which is fairly poor, if you were to look at the fact that he seems to be unable to see anything in like the mid-tier levels of where his receivers are, he'll either check it down or throw a bomb. His intermediate vision along the linebacker level at this stage in his career, I mean, to me, it's just he's a bit of a dead man walking, and the Giants are going to try to draft a quarterback next year. But like he did, and what makes him so maddening is that for the most part it's pretty bad, but then he'll have some really good plays where, which is what he did to seal the game. He ran up the middle and slid, and that's what allowed the Giants to run out the clock and ended up winning that game. And then he had another play that ended up getting called back due to an offensive PI on David Sills, who has the audacity to wear number 13, which I just like. I find to be an interesting choice, but whatever. It's the same. Like I don't know why Cam Akers just switched to 3. I mean, Odell could be going back to the Rams, dude. But I love Odell, so I'm
You
100%
do?
biased. Yeah. It's just like, or who's that guy on Kansas City who's wearing 10 the season after Tyreek Hill? It's just like give it a breather. I find that it might be like McKinnon or something. That's beside the point. But Daniel Jones did have a good play there where he stepped up and he kind of evaded the rush and he threw it to Kadarius Toney and it was this big gain and then it was called back due to offensive PI. But really, what has been the star of the Giants, or the factor that has allowed the Giants to win these games so far has been the creative play calling by Wink Martindale. And yes, Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll have been really good on the offensive side, even though I thought that they were a little cute doing like a wildcat in the red zone, which is just not for me. I've heard other Giants reporters and analysts talk about that they didn't like that play either. I did not. But they're doing the best with what they can, and the Panthers were just like stacking the box the whole game, so it was really difficult for Saquon to get anything going, and he wasn't really able to. But he served as quite an effective decoy on a play that went to running back Gary Brightwell, who was a late round pick last year and mostly kind of just is on the edge of the roster altogether. But he was a decoy. They put multiple backs back there, and he acted like a fullback and was able to have a really nice gain and almost actually took off for longer because he has better speed than the fullback. He's just kind of like a more sturdy, larger running back player. So they're understanding what the understanding of their players and their offense has been really good. And I think that despite the fact that their two top pass rushers have been out with injury in Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeau, and we still don't know what Kayvon's going to be because he hasn't played yet and he's a rookie, but at least we can assume he will be one of their top two pass rushers. And in the game, Leonard Williams, who's their best defensive player, although Adoree Jackson's been having a very strong start to the year, we can get to that, Leonard Williams left with injury, and yet they still were really effective on defense, and that's, in my opinion, because of the creativity of Wink Martindale. The Giants have the past two defensive coordinators have really gotten what they can out of a very relative to the rest of the NFL, a fairly untalented bunch. I love Patrick Graham still, and will always root for him.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, was speaking to Graham, is like you could have if there had been if there had been an anticipated like defensive fall off for the Giants as a result of Graham leaving, given the personnel and given the injuries like you said, it wouldn't have surprised me at all. So for them to still be looking pretty sharp, and also for this roster who is not some of these names like you're talking about, David Sills, undrafted guy from 2019, Gary Brightwell, not a relatively heralded player, not a, beside take Ojulari, take Leonard Williams, and take
Thibodeau.
and take Thibodeau out of the equation, there's not a whole lot of stars on this team. James Bradbury's not even there anymore.
Nope.
So this is a team that is actively being coached up and buying in and playing well. And listen, I understand that the Titans and the Panthers are not the Chiefs and the Chargers, but a win is a win. You could go out and lay an egg in those games, and they did not.
They didn't, and they had to start because not only is Bradbury gone, Adoree Jackson's been starting at cornerback 1. He's had a pretty strong start. He's injury prone, but he's fast, and that's the thing that stupid fucking Gettleman never understood. It's like he drafted DeAndre Baker. To be a corner in the modern NFL, it's not about being big and physical. It's about being able to run with guys like Tyreek Hill. No one can really run with that kind of guy, but you got to have someone who can be close, and Adoree Jackson has the speed to do that, so that was a decent free agent signing. But they had to start Cordell Flott, who was a rookie and who did not have a very good camp, in place of Aaron Robinson because he had appendicitis, and so he actually did okay. He gave up the DJ Moore touchdown, but other than that, the Giants played a solid, if not frustrating game because they only scored 1 touchdown, and the rest of this was Graham Gano kicking field goals. But, I actually picked the Giants to win this game in the small wager that I made earlier because Ben McAdoo is the offensive coordinator and Matt Rule is the head coach. So, they're more talented than the Giants, I think. On defense, they have Derek Brown and J.C. Horn is back, and they have some more pieces on defense that I think I would probably take over some of the Giants' young pieces at this point. But
Brian Burns.
Yeah, right. Speedy pass rusher Brian Burns.
But they are just coached by they are poorly coached, poorly constructed, and I can see them losing a game like this and losing the way they did to the Browns last week. I could literally see this being one of the worst teams in the NFL.
And the
vibes are off. The vibes are bad.
The vibes are really bad, and they've been bad since they were flailing trying to find a quarterback for the past 2 years. Just take anybody. We'll take anybody.
And to your point about J.C. Horn, as much as I'm very happy to see him back, and he was definitely in the draft last year, considered one of the highest graded press man corners in the 2021 draft. The big knock on him is that he's pretty handsy. He would draw a lot of penalties. And what did he do? He drew a few holding penalties while covering.
Yeah.
So it's that's not super encouraging either. So
I would be really, really unhappy if I were a Panthers fan with the way that Tepper has managed his ownership, which has been frenetic and desperate and undisciplined, and the team looks the same, except honestly they look lifeless. And DJ Moore, I still feel like is completely underutilized throughout the whole offense. So it's just a weird direction that team has taken. And they will be in the market for a quarterback in the draft too.